Hi, good to see you. Old man is abandoned by his two children, and you will not believe what happened when they wanted to claim his part of the inheritance. Don Ramon was an old man of years who lived alone in a house Modesta on the outskirts of the city, had worked all his life as an accountant in a company, and he had retired years ago. His wife had died years ago, and since then he felt very alone. His two children, Carlos and Sofía, were his only family. But they barely visited him or called him. They were too busy with their own lives and did not care. They were worried about their father. One day Carlos and Sofía arrived at Don Ramon's house with news that left him frozen. They told him that they had decided to take him to an asylum because they couldn't take care of him. They told him that it was the best for him, that he would be there, well cared for and accompanied, and that they would visit him from time to time. Don Ramon could not believe what he was hearing. He begged them not to do it, that he did not want to go to an asylum, that he preferred to stay in his house where he had his memories and his things. He said that he was not a burden that could to fend for himself. He just needed a little love and attention. But Carlos and Sofía did not listen to him. They told him that they had already made the decision and that there was no turning back. They told him that the next day they would come looking for him and that he should prepare his things. Don Ramon felt abandoned by his children. He locked himself in his room and cried all night. The next day, Carlos and Sofía arrived with a van and loaded Don Ramon's few belongings. They told him to say goodbye to his house and go upstairs. Don Ramon did not want to go to the vehicle. He clung to the door and begged to be allowed to stay. Carlos and Sofía became impatient, and they forcibly dragged him. He resisted and shouted for help, but no one listened to him. No one helped him. Carlos and Sofía drove to the nursing home. It was a gray and sad building surrounded by a high wall and a metal fence. They entered the place and met a receptionist who asked them to fill out some papers. Don Ramon stayed sitting on a bench. Looking around, he saw other elderly people who were waiting for him. They looked with curiosity or indifference. Some were in wheelchairs, others walked with canes, others stayed still, staring into space. Don Ramon felt like a stranger, like an intruder, like a piece of property. Carlos and Sofía finished filling out the papers and approached Don Ramon. They said that everything was ready and that they should leave. They told him to behave and adapt to his new life. They told him that they would soon see him again, but Don Ramon knew it was a lie. He knew that they would not return. They had forgotten that he had. They had discarded Carlos and Sofía. They gave him a cold kiss on the cheek and left. Don Ramon saw them go away and felt an emptiness in his chest. He was left alone, with no one who loved him, no one who would take care of him, no one who understood him. A woman approached to Don Ramon and told him that she was his caregiver and that her name was Lorena. She told him that she was going to take him to his room and that she was going to show him the place. She told him not to worry, that she would be with him and that she would make him feel like at home. He told her to smile at him, that life. She was beautiful and that she had to be enjoyed. He told her to take his hand and follow her. Don Ramon looked at her and saw that she was a young woman about a few years old with brown hair and green eyes, a sweet smile and a soft voice. Don Ramon took her hand and he followed her. He didn't know why, but he felt a spark of joy, a spark of life. Carlos and Sofía were Don Ramon's children, but they were nothing like him. They were selfish, ambitious, and materialistic. They only cared about money, power, and wealth. Fame. They had no affection for his father or anyone else. They only loved themselves. Carlos was a man of years who worked as a manager in a telecommunications company. He had a wife and two children, but he didn't know. He was only dedicated to his work and his lovers. He was a cold, calculating, and manipulative man. She didn't mind stepping on others to get what she wanted. Sofía was an older woman who worked as a fashion designer. She had a boyfriend and a daughter, but she despised them. She only cared about her image and her whims. She was a vain woman, superficial and arrogant. He did not care about humiliating others in order to feel superior. Carlos and Sofía had abandoned their father in a nursing home because they did not want to take care of him. They thought he was a nuisance and that he did not contribute anything to them. They only hoped that he would die soon. In order to inherit his money and properties, they did not know that Don Ramon had a secret that would change his plans. One day, Carlos and Sofía received unexpected news that their father had died, and they had been summoned to read the will. They believed that it was their lucky day, and that they were finally going to receive what was theirs, they put on their best suits and went to the notary's office, who was a serious and formal man named Don Jose. Don Jose received them with courtesy and invited them to go to his office. There a woman was waiting for them, who looked at them with curiosity. She was a young woman about a few years old with brown hair and green eyes with a sweet smile and soft voice. She was Lorena, Don Ramon's caregiver. Carlos and Sofía were surprised to see her, and they wondered, what was Don Jose doing there? Explained that she was one of the beneficiaries of Don Ramon's will, and that she should be present at the reading. Carlos and Sofía were outraged and thought it was a mistake. How was it possible that their father left something to a stranger who had surely left it? Deceived and taken advantage of, Don Jose asked them to calm down and listen carefully. He told them that he was going to read Don Ramon's will, and that they respect his will. He told them that he would not accept any interruptions or any comments. He told them to sit down and Don Jose opened the envelope that contained the will and began to read. Don Ramon, being of sound mind and free will, declare that this is my last will and that it annuls any previous will. I dispose of my assets in the following manner to my children. Carlos and Sofía leave you the sum of pesos each as a sign of my affection and my forgiveness. I hope that you know how to take advantage of this money and that you change your way of being. I hope that you learn to value what really matters in life and that you are happy. To my caregiver, Lorena, I leave the rest of my assets, which consist of various properties, bank accounts, shares, jewelry, and valuables. I leave all this to you as a token of my gratitude and my love. She has been the only person who has treated me with respect and tenderness. She has been the only person who has made me feel alive and happy. She has been the only person who has given me back hope and enthusiasm. She is my angel and my daughter of the heart. Carlos and Sofía laughed and told her that this was nonsense and that it didn't make sense. They told her that her father didn't love her and that she used it. They told her that her father was not her angel and that she was not his daughter. They told her that her father was hers and that they were her children. Don Jose told them that enough was enough and that they should leave. He told them that they were not going to make it. Nothing with his insults and threats, told them to respect Don Ramon's will and to leave Lorena alone. He told them to leave and not to return. Carlos and Sofía left but did not give up. They hired an unscrupulous lawyer named Fernando, and who was the son of Elena, Don Ramon's enemy. Fernando told them that he had a plan and that he was going to make Lorena lose everything she had earned. Fernando told them that he was going to discredit her and make her look like a profiteer. Fernando told them that he was going to prove that Lorena had influenced Don Ramon and that he had altered his will. Fernando told them that he was going to get them to inherit everything that belonged to them. Carlos and Sofía were happy and trusted Fernando. They did not know that Fernando had a secret that would change their plans. Lorena was involved in a lawsuit against Don Ramon's children, who hired a lawyer, an unscrupulous man named Fernando, who tried to discredit her and pass her off as an exploitative. Lorena defended herself with the help of a friend of hers who was a journalist named Miguel, who investigated Don Ramon's past and discovered that he had a very mysterious life full of secrets and adventures. Lorena and Miguel had met at the nursing home where Miguel was going to visit his grandmother, who was a nice and fun old woman named Dona Rosa. Dona Rosa was a friend of Don Ramon and introduced him to Lorena, who liked Lorena very much. Lorena and Miguel became friends and told each other about their lives. Lorena told him that she was an orphan and that she had grown up in an orphanage where she had learned to take care of others. Miguel told her that he was a journalist and that he liked to investigate and write on issues of social interest. Lorena and Miguel liked each other and fell in love. When Lorena received the news of Don Ramon's death and his inheritance, she was very affected. She did not know how to face the situation or what to do with so much money. Miguel supported her and told her that she should not worry, that he would help her. Miguel told her that Don Ramon had left her all that because he loved her and that she should accept it with gratitude. Miguel told her that Don Ramon had left her all that because he trusted her and that she should use it with responsibility. When Lorena received the news of the lawsuit from Don Ramon's children and her lawyer, she was very scared. She did not know how to defend herself or what evidence to present. Miguel encouraged her and told her not to be afraid. He would defend her. Miguel told her that the Don Ramon's children were ungrateful and that his lawyer was a cheater. He said that he had an idea and that he was going to investigate Don Ramon's past and discover the truth. Miguel got to work and started looking for information about Don Ramon. He reviewed his documents, his accounts, his properties, his contacts. He was surprised to see that Don Ramon had an enormous fortune and that he had traveled all over the world. He wondered how he had achieved all that and what he had done in those places. He realized that Don Ramon had a life very full of secrets and adventures. Miguel discovered that Don Ramon was a former secret agent who had worked for several governments and had been involved in dangerous operations. Miguel discovered that Don Ramon had several false identities and who had used names like Ricardo, Raul, Roberto, Rene, and Rodrigo. Miguel discovered that Don Ramon had participated in espionage missions, sabotage, rescue, infiltration, and murder. Miguel discovered that Don Ramon had met important people and that he had influenced the story. Miguel revealed everything to Lorena, what he had found, and showed her the evidence. Lorena was shocked and couldn't believe what she saw. Lorena wondered who Don Ramon really was and what relationship he had with her. Lorena wondered why Don Ramon had told her hid all that, and what else Lorena had hidden from her. Lorena wondered if Don Ramon loved her, or if he was just using her. Miguel told Lorena not to be confused and not to doubt Don Ramon. Miguel told her that Don Ramon was a hero and that he had having done all this for a good cause. Miguel told her that Don Ramon was a good man and that he had changed his life for her. Miguel told her that Don Ramon was his angel and that she was his daughter of the heart. Lorena believed him and thanked him. Lorena, he said that he trusted him and that he loved him. Lorena told him that she was willing to follow him and discover more. Lorena told her that she wanted to know the story of Don Ramon and to honor his memory. Miguel smiled at her and kissed her. Miguel told her that he admired her and that he loved her. Miguel told her that he was willing to accompany her and protect her. Miguel, he told him that he wanted to tell the story of Don Ramon and do him justice. Lorena and Miguel continued investigating Don Ramon's story and found clues that led them to travel to different countries where they discovered that Don Ramon had several properties that were actually shelters and hiding places. They also learned that Don Ramon had a great enemy who was a spy named Elena who pursued him for years and who tried to kill him several times. Lorena and Miguel realized that Elena was behind the lawsuit of Don Ramon's children and who wanted to keep his fortune to finance his evil plans. Lorena and Miguel traveled the world, following the clues that Don Ramon had left them. They visited places like France, Italy, Russia, China, and the United States, where Don Ramon had had properties that were actually shelters and hiding places. In each place they found documents, photos, objects, and memories that revealed more about Don Ramon's life and about his missions as a secret agent. Lorena and Miguel were surprised to discover that Don Ramon had been a man of action who had experienced situations of risk and emotion. They saw that Don Ramon had been a man of talent who had mastered several languages, skills, and knowledge. They saw that Don Ramon he had been a man of courage who had fought for noble causes and had saved many lives. Lorena and Miguel also learned that Don Ramon had had a great enemy who was a spy named Elena who had pursued him for years and who had tried to kill him several times. They saw that Elena was a woman of beauty who had seduced Don Ramon and who had been his lover. They saw that Elena was a woman of evil who had betrayed Don Ramon and who had been his rival. They saw that Elena was a woman of power, that he had led a criminal organization, and that he had had evil plans. Lorena and Miguel realized that Elena was behind the lawsuit of Don Ramon's children and that she wanted to keep his fortune to finance her evil plans. They saw that Elena had hired her son Fernando, who was Carlos and Sofia's lawyer, and who had devised a plan to discredit Lorena and make her lose the trial. Saw that Elena had manipulated Carlos and Sofia and that she had used them as pawns to get what Lorena wanted, and Miguel decided to confront Elena and stop her plans. They collected all the evidence they had found and took it to the court where the trial was being held. There they met Carlos, Sofia, and Fernando, who looked at them with contempt. There they met Don Jose, the notary, who looked at them with sympathy. There they met the judge, who looked at them with curiosity. Lorena and Miguel presented their case and showed the evidence. They told the story of Don Ramon and his missions as a secret agent. They told the story of Elena and of his crimes as a spy. They told the story of Fernando and of his complicity as a lawyer. They told the story of Carlos and Sofia and their ingratitude as children. They told the story of Lorena and her love as a caregiver. Carlos, Sofia, and Fernando tried to deny everything and contradict him. They said that Lorena and Miguel were liars and that they had invented everything. They said that Don Ramon was a senile old man and that he had been deceived. They said that Elena was an innocent woman and that she had been defamed. They said that Fernando was a professional, honest, and that he had done his job. They said that Carlos and Sofía were the legitimate heirs and that they had the right to everything. The judge listened to both parties and evaluated the evidence. The judge handed down his sentence and gave his verdict. The judge declared that Don Ramon's will was valid and that Lorena was the legitimate heir. The judge declared that Elena was guilty and that she should be arrested. The judge declared that Fernando was an accomplice and that he should be punished. The judge declared that Carlos and Sofía were disinherited and that they should pay the cost. Lorena and Miguel were happy and hugged each other. They had won the trial and they had done justice. They had defended the memory of Don Ramon and they had honored his legacy. They had confronted Elena and they had stopped her plans. They had shown their love and they had formed their family. Carlos, Sofía, and they got angry and they lamented that they had lost their trial and had been humiliated. Lorena and Miguel confronted Helena, who turned out to be Fernando's mother, the lawyer for Don Ramon's children. Helena confessed to them that she and Don Ramon had been lovers in the past, but that he had betrayed her and left her for another woman who was Carlos and Sofía's mother. Elena told them that she had been the one who had killed Don Ramon by injecting him with poison in the asylum and that she planned to do the same with Lorena and Miguel. However, at that moment Don Ramon appeared, and it turned out that he was not dead but had faked his death to escape from Elena and protect Lorena. Don Ramon told Elena that he had deceived her all this time and that he never loved her, but he only used her to infiltrate his organization. Don Ramon told Lorena that she was his real daughter, the result of a relationship he had with a woman who died in childbirth, and that he searched for her for years until he found her. Don Ramon told Lorena that he loved her very much and that he left her everything he had. Don Ramon told Miguel that he was his best friend and that he thanked him for his help. Don Ramon told Carlos and Sofía that they were his adopted children and that he loved them but that he did not forgive them for their abandonment. Don Ramon told Elena that surrender and that the police were on their way. Elena refused and tried to shoot Don Ramon, but Lorena stands up and receives the bullet. Lorena falls to the ground and Don Ramon hugs her crying. Elena takes advantage of the distraction and runs away. Miguel chases her and Elena catches up with her and Miguel struggle and Elena falls off a cliff. Miguel returns to Don Ramon and Lorena and calls an ambulance. Lorena is injured but alive. Don Ramon tells her that he loves her and that everything is going to be okay. Lorena tells him that she loves him too and that is happy to have met him. Miguel says that he also loves them and that they are his family. The three of them hug and smile.